Tune in to Overcomers TV on your favorite app or streaming platform. It's time to overcome.
I first learned about the Caring Place in 2012. They were having an event outside, and it was known as Christmas in July. I came, ate, got clothing, the whole nine, 2012. That's when I first learned about it. But everything was unmanageable when I first got here. Life-controlling substances. I damaged my heart using heroin. Today I wear a defibrillator in my chest. I can remember like it was yesterday. I had my wits end, about to give up on life. I was sitting at Bayside Park. It began to rain. I was like, well, let me get just one more drink. And I was hearing about my nephew had passed earlier, so I was going through so many things, but I couldn't get drunk anymore. And so I'm like, you know what? I want to change. You know, I don't want to sit here and die because I have the heart issue. I remembered the 2012 of the Christmas in July at the Mission, or the Caring Place is known today. And it was a sign that's out front, right at the desk right now. And it's a 1960 sign, and it says, if you don't have a friend in the world, you'll find one here. It's a bunch of things that we deal with and go through, but God. Back into the night, I don't want to take over, but and that night, I began to walk, and I remembered where the mission was, but I couldn't remember where the mission was. But I asked God to order my steps. And as I walked to the mission, I had a backpack on and everything. When I got to the corner, I was so tired. But I looked at the corner of the curb, and I was like, man, I'm not gonna sit on the curb, you know. I can't do it. But then I heard a still voice say, humble thyself. And so I got in front of the building. I sat on the curb. And then as I was there, it was, I'm sleepy, Lord, I'm sleepy. And I was like, no, I don't want to lay down on the sidewalk. I heard another still voice, humble thyself. And so I laid down. But early that morning, they was doing the intake, which they do every Monday morning, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. This particular day, there was no intake. I was like, oh, Lord, no. I done waited all this time. I did the walk. My legs were straightened out. I laid on the sidewalk, Lord, but there was an intake that day. Praise be to God. And it was 7 of us that made it in, the number of completion. So, hey, God has just been blessing. Well, when I first came in, it was the Jericho phase. That phase is, you're coming in and you're trying to figure things out, and it's almost like a detox kind of thing. Coming from what's on the outside, going through the pain of. But when I came into the Caring Place, that wasn't it. I got a feel of comfort because I knew God was with me, and I went through the Jericho phase, which is 37 days. And then I got into the pre-alpha phase. Pre-alpha is mainly getting more into scripture, restoring yourself back with God, and becoming more focused on things you need to do in order to correct your life. Then I made it into the alpha. And oh my God, the alpha program is discipleship. It is so amazing because it's really getting close with God, learning scripture, so much. Evangelism, witnessing. And so they have the guests that come. And you're always able to share a word, even on the inside with someone. I come from a Christian background. I was a preacher. And I just fell out of grace of God, life circumstances. But God has restored me, so now I'm able to help others and just talk about the goodness of God. Because, like I said, I have the defibrillator in my chest. I was at 18%. And now I'm 40%. All facts ain't final. And it was God that made it happen. And so now I'm able to share the goodness of God, what God will do. All facts aren't final. And then I go back into that scripture, Deuteronomy 28. And it says in the first, if you just hearken unto my word, then he said, I will set you apart. And as I set you apart, I'll make you my own people. Then in verse 2, this is what I get happy about. It says, if you continue to hearken unto my word, then I will bless you, and the blessings will overtake you. And so God just been blessing. And then there's one more scripture. Now, I'm so sorry. There's one more scripture that gets me is Isaiah 58, the true fast. See, I thought it was about starving myself. I thought it was about doing all these crazy things. But it tells me, again in verse 6, it says, break the chains of oppression. Help somebody that needs help. Feed somebody that needs to be fed. Clothe somebody that needs to be clothed. And then further down, as you get into verse 8, it talks about the reward. First, he said, I'll heal you. And then after I heal you, my glory, God's glory now, will be the reward. And I just looked at that and I got so happy because my heart was restored from 18% to 40%. Have mercy, somebody.
Yeah, that's good.
The clothes I have on right now are donations. From the shoes, everything, it comes from the mission, but due from donors, sponsors, even the volunteers. It's so much that can be done and so much that they do. And to continue it, it needs more help. It needs more sponsorship. It needs more volunteers. It needs so much. But God be the glory. Prayer changes things. And I'm sorry to keep quoting scripture at you, but in Mark 11, it talks about that. It says if you pray, believe in your prayer. But it goes back in the story about the fig tree. When Jesus came through and he cursed the fig tree because it wasn't bearing any fruit. And the disciples was with him, was like, Lord, the tree that you cursed the other day, it is gone. He said, but if you just have faith to cast the mountain, tell the mountain to go into the sea or go into the sea. He said, if you just believe in your prayer, have faith inside of that prayer, then whatever you ask in my name, I will do. So prayer is needed. Prayer changes things. Without prayer, I don't know where I would be. It takes funding. It does. It takes a lot of funding, but also God, also prayer, also the regeneration. It's called what? Polygenesis, power, restoring. And I just thank God for the caring place. I thank God for the opportunity to help others. I thank God for the financial donors, for the sponsors, for the volunteers, because it's all connected together. It's not one little single part that can do it all by itself. What gets me up in the morning, I have just 5 good reasons. 1, he woke me up this morning. 2, it's the same thing. He woke me up this morning. I have use of my limbs. 3, he woke me up this morning. I'm in my right mind. 4, he woke me up this morning. I'm not on the cooling board. And 5, I just jump for joy and just shout that he woke me up this morning. So that gives me started. That's the first blessing that we all receive, that God woke us up this morning. The caring place, it changes lives for the better. You don't have to come in with anything. Just come bring yourself and have a willing heart, and you will be restored.